Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast that took 3,407 years to come to fruition because this week we watched the Battle of Ranskoor Av'Kolos.
Written by Chris Chibnall.
Directed by Jamie Childs.
And aired on December 9th, 2018.
The season finale of Jodie Whittaker's first season as Jodie Whittaker, a.k.a. the first female Doctor Whittaker.
She's playing herself? Well, I mean, okay, so we've alluded to this theory before. And, might as well just come out and say what it is now. There's really no point in keeping it a secret or anything. But a lot of people now are speculating that the Doctor has been in an alternate universe ever since she fell to Earth. Because, in Series 12, there is another version of the Doctor, and there's a version of the Master that seems apparently to not fit into any known continuity for the Master.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean...
it's not like the Master hasn't just vanished off screen and like died off screen, but come back with no explanation before. It's not like they've ever actually had a continuity around the Master, like...
Well, there were apparently also a few other little hints towards this. Also the thing in It Takes You Away of the Doctor saying, like, your universe, implying that she knows she's in an alternate universe. Maybe Jack Harkness's return has something to do with this.
all these spoilers were just dropping.
Yeah.
Like we're literally as bad as the BBC at this point.
BBC 30 seconds into the episode. So how did you like the return of Jack Harkness?
Hasn't even happened on screen yet. So, anyway, the Doctor. It'd be kind of weird if she just entered an alternate universe. Like, I'm not really sure how that would work between, what was it, Twice Upon a Time and The Woman Who Fell to Earth, because the continuity between the two seems pretty seamless. Pretty seamless.
Yeah, but we didn't see the entire fall.
I suppose not, but then whose TARDIS is this? Is this just... Did the TARDIS fall through the crack in the universes too? Somebody posted a picture of like a crack in the universe behind Jodie Whittaker's head that appeared at some point during, I think, this season. So maybe that's a clue. So maybe that has something to do.
Crack from Series 5.
My question is, how do the cracks in the universe correlate with Ed Heim's hit and running of the universe, like requiring the solid track to be booted out to start up?
Probably not at all.
How does Mr. House's universe fit into all of this too?
Well, the thing is, like, Doctor Who has never tried to reconcile its varying, like, things. And that's actually something that to be said about Series 11, is that it actually feels a lot more connected than Doctor Who has ever been.
Yeah, because there are actual character arcs.
Yeah.
Chibnall did say going into making the season, he's like, I want this to feel like kind of like Star Trek. You have an ensemble cast where everybody has their episode and they have ongoing character arcs.
Well, it worked. I mean, this plus Resolution, which we've watched already at this point, are a very solid, I think, cap on this season.
Yeah, I think so. And I think bringing back Tim Shaw was, I think a lot of people had problems with it because like Tim Shaw is not a great villain, but I think it tied the season together.
Yeah, no, he wasn't a great villain, but his plan was dastardly enough in this. Maybe if we had gotten like a little hint or a little foreshadowing moment of him materializing on the planet, like maybe if that scene was stuck at the end of episode 1,
Maybe. We got it at the beginning of this episode. So.
Yeah, which is fine. I like that sort of little reveal. Since we're on the topic, I might as well just come out with it now. I think Series 11 plus Resolution is the best season that Doctor Who has ever put out in its entire history.
That could be potentially a very hot take.
I know that's probably not a very popular opinion, so...
No, I mean, I don't think I necessarily disagree.
You think this is the very best?
I think it's up there for me.
Yeah, for me, it's either this or season 17 from the classic show. And I think this season for me was very similar to 17 in that it doesn't have my favorite episode of the reboot, which I still would probably say is Rings of Akaten. But it has like ones that are very high on my list.
Yeah, things like Demons of the Punjab and Rosa and It Takes You Away.
Yeah.
So, I guess we kind of alluded to how this episode starts already, but it starts with this scene where these two people are just in the middle of like a rock quarry, throwing it back
Yeah.
to the roots.
Exactly. This really is the classic show revived. And this is how we know.
And they're in this rock quarry, and this lady, whose name we don't learn till later, and I didn't write down, so I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I don't know either of these two people's names, but they're the Ucks. That's their species name.
Yeah. There's only ever two of them, we find out later, so this is the entirety of the species.
Yeah, considering like they use what looks like the Force here, it's kind of like the Sith, right? There's only two.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. My first note is some sort of faith-based force power thing.
Yeah, so what they're doing is sort of there's an older one and a younger one, and the younger one is like he's very unsure of himself. He's like, I don't know if I can do this. The older woman is like, no, you can, and if you don't, then like all this was for nothing type thing or something like that.
Well, the younger one also says, like, everything you teach me makes me doubt myself more, and the older one's like, good, that was the point. And he's like, what?
Good. Okay.
Good. Give in to your hate.
So he starts, I don't know.
Building something.
Yeah. Just bringing rocks together. In a weirdly related note that has actually nothing to do with Doctor Who, I watched this video about like the creative process recently. The guy was like, when you're trying to build a building, if you're an architect, you start by bringing all these stones together. And that's easy. And the more you do that, the more preparation you have. But the more you do that, the less you actually build the thing.
Interesting.
That's what he's doing here. He's bringing... No, I'm just kidding. The message of the video was like, actually just start working on the building instead of doing the prep work for it type thing. Which I don't know how much, I agree with that, but...
Kind of like how if you ever ask someone for advice on how to write, they're always like, just write. Doesn't even matter if it's good or not, just start writing. Because if you don't, then you'll just... for hundreds of days, just not write anything because you'll be doing, quote, prep work, unquote, which is just an excuse to not write.
Yeah, I think that was sort of what this guy was getting at in the video. But, as a writer or someone who's trying to be a writer full time, like there's prep work involved, especially if you're writing articles. But yeah, at a certain point, it's like, okay, just put the pencil to the paper or put your fingers to the keyboard and
put the pen to the keyboard.
Yeah. Yeah. Just what he's doing here, he's putting the rocks to the air, and he's interrupted by a materialization.
A mysterious shadowy figure.
Yeah. You kind of, is it just me, or was it kind of hinted towards this being the TARDIS?
Maybe.
For like 2 seconds, and then you get the actual TARDIS.
Yeah, for like a millisecond, and then when it pans over it and you see it's a person, you're like, oh, that's not the TARDIS.
No, I didn't really get a good view of what it was, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, but then we get the TARDIS in space, watching space fireworks. No, actually, that's next week.
That's a problem with watching 2 a week and recording them back to back.
The Doctor's in the TARDIS, and she's looking at the screen, and she's like, there are 9 distress calls. They're all coming from the same location on the same planet. And Graham's like, do we have to go? And the Doctor's like, no, we could just pass them by like everybody else does, Graham.
But then you won't be able to get your revenge, Graham. No, she doesn't say that. So they decide to land. And they're in sort of a deserted...
like spaceship.
Yeah.
And we meet Pal Tracky. He pulls a gun on them and he's like, who are you? How did you get here? What are you doing? Before the Doctor and Co. go out of the TARDIS, she actually decides to check the life sign readings, the habitability readings for once, back to the Daleks.
Well, she finds out that there's some psychic force on the planet that would just like destroy their minds. So she gives them, I think they're called neural blocks or something.
Neural inhibitors, I think.
Yeah, which prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
And then they go out, and this is when they meet Paltraki. And he's like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "Who are you?" He's like, "Good question."
So then they get a transmission, or Paltraki does, and it's the lady from the beginning, and she's like, "You need to bring the rock back." The chosen one demands it.
She says you need to bring back what you took, which happens to be like a little hipster-looking lamp. Really a new age 21st century lava lamp here. No. It's sort of a crystal with a vibrating sphere inside of it.
Yeah, but this is when the woman kind of goes off screen. We see that it's Tim Shaw who's doing the whole thing. We find out now, 10 minutes into the episode, that it's Tim Shaw.
Yeah, or if you didn't remember what his mask looked like, which I didn't, we get the nice bit of dialogue. I think someone says, "Couldn't be Tim Shaw." And yeah, it's him.
So Tim Shaw's back to ruin someone's day.
Ruin a lot of people's day.
Yeah, he's upgraded from killing a single person to committing planetary genocide. Pretty big leap, if you ask me.
And also acting as a false god, don't forget that.
Now I'm just thinking back to Return of the Jedi, where C-3PO is being hoisted up by the Ewoks, and he just goes, "They seem to think I'm some sort of god. And impersonating a god is not in my programming." So the doctor's like, "Oh shit, it's Tim Shaw. Guess we gotta go do stuff now." Originally I was just gonna see what's going on and
bail when things...
but now it's Tim Shaw, so I gotta go beat him. And she pulls out like a gun and gives... She pulls out a bunch of weapons, and Ryan's like, whoa, you said we couldn't shoot anyone. And the doctor's like, "You can shoot things if they can be rebuilt. If they can be rebuilt, I'll allow it."
Well, this is a bit after, because they leave the sort of ship that they're on. We find out that Paltraki was, a commander of some sort of expedition, because Tim Shaw actually has his crewmates hostage and he kills one of them. Mm-hmm. So they sort of leave the ship, and they're in sort of they're in the quarry, they're in sort of a wasteland. And this is when the doctor, also actually this is when Graham is like, "Doctor," he pulls the doctor to the side and he's like, if we confront Tim Shaw, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
She's like, "Nah, Graham, you wait in the ship if you're going to do that."
And Graham's like, "You can't make me. It's not like you're going to kill me."
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't say that directly, but yeah, I guess. Wow. And this is when the doctor pulls out the weapons. And it's done, in sort of a funny way. She's like, "So I have grenades, bombs," and well, she has maps of the area somehow.
So they eventually get to the giant floating rock shrine, but they have to go through this wasteland of crashed and destroyed spaceships in order to do so. And Paltraki's like, "This is all the other people who came to do what we also came here to do."
Yeah, which we don't know what that is yet, because Paltraki's memory is annoyingly coming back very slowly. Did we ever find out why he lost his memory?
Just because the planet was attacking his brain.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Because the doctor starts to lose her memory later when she's taken the neural inhibitor off.
Right. So they get beamed into the ship, and Ryan has sort of a funny line here where he says something like, "Don't aliens ever use doors?" Something like that. Flashback to Demons of the Punjab when he was beamed into the facility or whatever. The ship embedded in the ground. So they split up. They all go and do different tasks.
Yeah, Yaz and Paltraki are supposed to go and figure out what to do with the rock. Ryan and Graham have to go rescue Paltraki's crew, and the doctor's going to go confront Tim Shaw, basically.
Right. That's one thing I've really enjoyed about this season, I'll just say now, is that whenever they split up, they all have sort of unique, different things to do.
It's true. They're not like 6 people going to go look for rocks.
Yeah. So Ryan and Graham have a little heart-to-heart. Ryan tells Graham that it's not what Grace would have wanted for him to take revenge against Tim Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
But Graham disagrees with that. So they have a little argument, but eventually they start getting chased by I forget what
Sniper bots.
Sniper bots? Yeah, I thought they were saying like cyber bots or
No,
something.
the sniper bots from Ghost Monument.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. I didn't remember that. It's interesting. Yeah, those were the Stenza machines, I guess. So.
Yeah, well, as we learn at least 10 times in this episode, the Ux's power married to Stenza technology makes me unbeatable.
Except for getting sealed in a little chamber. So Yaz also talks to Paltraki. Something Yaz actually seems to do a lot. Maybe she doesn't. And having finished the season now and Resolution, I'll say like, yeah, Yaz did have the least to her out of Yaz, Ryan, and Graham. Considering this episode, and then like next episode is definitely a Ryan episode. But the one purpose Yaz does serve in each episode is to talk to like the character of the week and really tease out what they're about.
It's true.
But to be honest, Paltraki was such a nothing character that I don't even remember what they talk about here.
I think Yaz is just trying to figure out why Paltraki was there, and he's like, I don't remember. And she's like, okay, well, tell me when you do. And he's like, okay, I will.
We find out later, and I feel like we're going to forget to say this later if we don't say it now, that the reason that there were all those crashed ships there and the reason why Paltraki was there is that they were all trying to stop Tim Shaw.
Yeah. Yeah. So the doctor confronts... Well, the doctor convinces the older Ux... Should really get her name. To be honest, should really get her name.
Ux the Elder.
There's... one of them was Delph. Was one of them Delph? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think one of them was Delph.
Yeah. The man is Delph, and the woman is Andinio.
Huh.
So the doctor convinces Andinio to take her to Tim Shaw because Tim Shaw recognizes the doctor, which like blows Andinio's mind because she thought that like Tim Shaw was like the prophet, the chosen one, and like how does she being the doctor recognize Tim Shaw, and how does Tim Shaw recognize her? Like, ooh.
Yeah, they think Tim Shaw is the creator, so this is where we're starting to kind of piece together that like, okay, Tim Shaw is like usurped power or taken power by trying to become this false god, or not trying to becoming.
Yeah, apparently the Ux have been waiting for generations for this chosen one to arrive and give them guidance or something.
Yeah, the doctor says something weird here. I don't know if you picked up on it, but she says like there's only 2 Ux ever at a single time, only known to like be on 3 planets. And I was like, how does that work? Like, it's
like just hop between the 3 planets every couple millennia.
Yeah, I guess that's. Yeah, only way to have 2 people on 3 planets.
Originally, I assumed that meant there was 2 Ux per planet for 3 planets, but...
Yeah. I'm assuming the Ux don't come back. I mean, there are only, like, what, 7 opportunities for them to come back?
So far.
I don't think I would assume there haven't been any books or comics written about the Ux in the amount of time that it's been since this aired.
I would assume so, but you never know.
I don't know what the like actual book or comic like landscape looks like for the 13th Doctor.
Well, I know Sophie Aldred wrote a book where the 13th Doctor meets Ace.
Huh. Is that officially sanctioned by like official people who hold rights?
Yep, sanctioned by the BBC. Yep.
Yeah, that would be cool. It would be a good combination, I think.
Also, I think it's called At Childhood's End. A lot like that Arthur C. Clarke book.
Well, that was just Childhood's End, so, not really a prepositional phrase there, not really an adverbial there.
Okay.
So, anyway, the doctor confronts Tim Shaw, and she's like, come on, Tim, like, thought you were done with all this.
Tim gave me heavy Saw Gerrera vibes from Rogue One. I don't think you've seen Rogue One?
I have seen it, but I was so fundamentally bored by what was happening in Rogue One by the middle of the movie that I just didn't even care.
Well, this is definitely in the
anything.
first half of the movie. when Saw Gerrera shows up and he just like reaches down every so often and breathes out of his breathing apparatus. Tim Shaw's doing the same thing here. Felt a little weird, especially with the whole Sith there can only be two connection. I was like, is this just Star Wars in my Doctor Who?
Since you give me the opportunity to bring it up, Rogue One is the worst Star Wars movie ever created. Worse than the holiday special.
Wow, strongly disagree.
It's so bad.
No, it's
so
really
damn
not.
Bad.
It's really not.
There's only one good scene in it, and it's the one with Vader, and that should be very telling.
Wow, you have the same opinion as literally everyone.
There's actually two scenes with Vader, and both of them are good, but the rest of it is just garbage. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Tim Shaw reveals that he's been there for 3,400 years. He's taken...
3,407.
Yeah. He's taken the reins as the false prophet of this civilization. And he's used the technology of the Stenza and the knowledge of the Ux to...
Yeah, the powers of the Ux and the Stenza technology, which he says like dozens of times in the next 5 minutes.
It's like, yeah, maybe 5 to 10 times, where he asserts every single time that it's completely unbeatable and that nothing can stop him. Also, weird Star Wars connection is that his plan is honestly very similar to Starkiller Base.
The visuals also look very much like Starkiller Base.
Yeah.
Is this Star Wars in my Doctor Who? It's more likely than you think.
Maybe the larger budget for this season made them
do Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
what
so
happens next?
There's this really nice bit of acting from Jodie Whittaker, from Jodie Whittaker here when Tim Shaw's like, I'm unbeatable, and she's like, well, basically she's like, we'll see about that, and she turns around and she kind of glares Tim Shaw down before running off. I don't know. Just thought it was done really well. Anyway, I think this is about when Yaz... Well, okay, so at this point, Ryan and Graham have made it to where the crew is being held, and they walk in and they're like, oh no, there are too many to save, because they only brought 2 code breakers to break into the little stasis chambers, because they only thought they had to rescue the 2 people who came with Paltraki. As it turns out, there's like dozens of people in stasis there. And so they're like, well, I guess we've got to try to save everyone. So they just start cracking open those cryo chambers.
Right.
And then meanwhile, Yaz and Paltraki have found the kind of main room where... what did I say his name was? Delph?
Delph?
Yeah, and Denio and Delph, where Delph is kind of strapped into a little
He's
harness.
Adric up on the wall, like what the Master did in Castrovalva, yeah.
Because Tim Shaw has told Endinio to tell Delph that there's a new target, and Diaz and Paltraki are in the room, and they're like, what's going on? And then the doctor comes running in, and then Tim Shaw contacts her and is like, the new target is Earth.
Yeah, this is also the room where they're holding all the other little crystals.
Yeah, and it's also revealed that that the whole building is the weapon, basically.
So it's sort of, was it floating before, or does it like come out of the lake?
No, it was floating before, because they get beamed in from underneath. This gave me very Emperor, witness the power of this fully armed and operational battle station. So.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, this is a little more foolproof than the Death Star.
True. Because I guess we forgot to mention, but the actual powers of the Yuks are that they can manipulate the fabric of space and time just by their thoughts.
Yeah, they're just another like race in Doctor Who that can just do whatever they want. They're just completely unlimited in what they can do. If they can imagine it, they can do it.
I think the hilarious part is that we have all these races that are basically like unlimited or unstoppable, but the race that like continuously survives and wins every time is the freaking Daleks.
I actually have something I want to talk about that in like a very meta sense in the next episode, which is like less than an hour away for us, but over a week away for you, probably.
So also Tim Shaw revealed that the recall device back to his home planet got corrupted by the Doctor when he got sent back, and that's how he ended up on this planet. And also the Ux saved him from the DNA bombs that were going off in his body.
Right, so a nice little connection here is that Tim Shaw, like Graham, wants revenge. He's pissed that the Doctor essentially sent him into
into exile.
exile by not his own accord. And he's gonna attack Earth because the Doctor like really likes Earth. So not too complex, but nice sort of interesting parallel between this guy who's like gung ho about revenge, and then Graham, at the end, has a sort of dilemma where he's like, do I stoop down to this guy's level or no?
Yeah, and when Ryan's talking with Graham, that's also what he says. Like, specifically, he says that Grace said to always be the better man, and killing Tim Shaw isn't the better man.
Right.
Will Graham kill Tim Shaw? Stay tuned to find out.
Well, what's really heavily telegraphed here, I think, is that Graham could potentially die because they're taking all the hostages out, and then Graham goes off on his own because he still wants to confront Tim Shaw.
But also someone needs to detonate the bombs when the robots come through the door to give everybody the time they need to escape. Because Paltraki takes the first group, and then Ryan takes the second group after them. But someone needs to blow the door to keep the robots back. And Graham basically offers to do that. Got to mention that this is also when Tim Shaw's plan is revealed, and he's basically just literally stealing planets out of the sky and holding them in stasis as well. He says that the Stenza always wanted to keep entire worlds in stasis, but they could never figure out how to do it. But with Stenza technology married with the Ux's power, he's figured out how to do it.
Right, so the little vibrating black orbs inside the crystals were actually entire planets, and once the Doctor realizes that, she says that having all these planets in proximity is making like the fabric of the universe unstable, and that they have to be separated.
Yeah, because they're also dense.
Yeah.
And also the Doctor mentions that when those planets get taken out of space, everybody on them dies.
Yeah.
So, and then it's revealed that that's why Paltraki was there, because he was going back to get their home planet back, which is the rock he's got.
Which, I guess, if the Doctor's right, everyone on his planet, except for the hostages, is dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, sucks to be them. But yeah, they're sort of the hostages are making their way out. They escape, and Graham confronts Tim Shaw, and he has him at gunpoint.
Mm-hmm. It's basically like, I could kill you right now, and Tim Shaw's like, you could, and yet you hesitate. Graham's like, yeah, I can't do this. And then Ryan kind of busts in and holds Tim Shaw at gunpoint.
Tim Shaw makes sort of a sudden movement, and Graham does shoot. He shoots him in like the leg or something.
Foot, yeah.
Yeah, just sort of putting him out of commission. And there's this interesting scene where Ryan and Graham both have Tim Shaw. Tim Shaw's down on the floor and they're both pointing guns at him. But like, he knows at that point, like, I know this is sort of a nitpick, like plot thing, but like, he knows at that point they're not going to kill him. Might as well just like take your chances, like get up, just try and like tackle them or something. Like, he knows that they're trying not to kill him. So.
Yeah, I wondered that too when I watched this. Both times I've watched this. And, oh well, I guess.
Yeah, I don't really care, but just sort of something you think while watching the episode.
Right.
But meanwhile...
Yeah, meanwhile there's like utter chaos in the other room.
The Doctor has this idea that like the way the Ux's power is being channeled into the Stenza technology in an unstoppable fashion is that they're channeling their psychic abilities into the tech or whatever, or the machinery. So she decides to use the neural inhibitors to block the psychic connection. But that also means that she and Yaz are going to be susceptible to the planet's psychic force or whatever.
Right.
So they have to work fast. And I thought this was funny. They have two goals here. They need to do what we just said, block the psychic force, but also figure out what to do with the planets. And they're like, first things first, let's take off these inhibitors. It was like, I don't know, just if I was in their shoes, I would be like, all right, let's figure out what to do with these planets first, and then put a plan into action.
Well, because what happens is that they're about to take Earth through, and Yaz is like, we could just kill these two. And the Doctor's like, no. And Yaz says this line that's like, whoa, okay, Yaz. She's like, 2 lives versus the 7 billion on Earth. I don't know. Seems easy to me. But basically, she doesn't say that, but like she's basically like, yeah, 2 people versus 7 billion. It's probably what we should do. And the Doctor's like, no, we're not doing that. Maybe lends
Police
credits to
officer,
that.
yes.
Yeah, police officer, yes.
Maybe, no, maybe the Sheffield screening process needs to up their game a little bit.
I was going to say maybe lends some background credits to that other theory that I heard for next season where Yaz secretly struck a deal with the Master in episode 1 and 2.
Well, yeah, maybe.
So they put the neural inhibitors on Andinio, Jesus, and Delph, and they're like, "What have you done?" And then the Doctor basically like instantly changes their mind. He's like, Tim Shaw's a false prophet, and they're like, "Yeah, I guess you're right. Shoot, you're right."
This was, I understand like the role of this in the episode from like a writing perspective. We're almost done here. It needs to be done quick. But like on the other hand, she's basically just says like, by the way, your religion for the past 3,000 and a half years was fake. And I'm like, oh, okay, gotcha. You'd think they would put up a little more resistance to this, but they don't, and that's okay. But again, just something I kind of noticed.
Right. And the planets are cracking out of their eggs, and they're like, oh no. And then the Doctor's like, Tim Shaw may have a shrine, but I have a ghost monument. I'm like,
but I have bombs and guns.
And then she goes, Ux power linked with Stenza technology, linked with my blue box. And I'm like, oh my God, please stop. Make it stop. Because basically they don't have enough time to send each planet back individually. So I guess the Doctor's plan is to use the TARDIS to send all the planets back at once. Right. So they link the TARDIS up to the metaphorical cross that Andinio and Delph have been prostrated on for the whole episode.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to ignore that religious symbolism.
Yeah, you thought the religious references in Doctor Who were done now that Russell T. Davies and Stephen Moffat were gone? Think again.
Think again.
They have been drastically reduced, though.
It's true.
In a very refreshing way.
Until now.
Yeah. So they, do that, I guess.
Yeah, they hook up the wires, and then she's like, Delph, this is probably going to hurt, a lot. And I wouldn't ask you to do it if there was any other way. And he's like, don't worry, I understand. And he just grabs the cables, and they go. They engage go mode.
We see the planets returning to their actual size and what presumably is their actual original place in the universe.
Yeah, the Doctor's like, Delph, you've got all those coordinates in your head. Hope you remember them.
They just put the planets on a crash collision course with a sun or something.
No one's on them anymore, so allegedly, if the Doctor's right.
Yeah. So, the day is saved here. Delph is very exhausted by this. We see a sort of moment where he just collapses to the floor and is having trouble breathing.
But then he's okay. He's fine.
Yeah. There's a line in this episode, actually, where the Doctor says to Tim Shaw, every action has consequences. And, just flashback to the entire, Moffat era of the show. Just that entire era.
The best part about that line was when Tim Shaw responds with, and I'm yours, Doctor.
Yeah, that was the best, I guess.
And then she goes, I didn't mean it like that. Damn, he's good.
I'll think of a response to this in 5 minutes, Tim Shaw, so you better remember that you said that.
The Doctor also has a line here where Yaz is like, is this going to work? And she says, I once towed your planet halfway across the universe and turned a Slitheen back into an egg. And I was like, nice throwback to the Russell T era, but what about all those times that you used the TARDIS for BS purposes in the Moffat era?
Yeah, I forgot which episode the Doctor pulled the TARDIS across the universe.
Journey's End.
Yeah, so I looked it up, and what I found was a long and angry rant about how this isn't an acceptable part of the show and never would have been done in the classic show and just ruins everything about Doctor Who, about Journey's End, and about the Doctor towing the Earth. Yeah.
I just remember, I think that's the episode where we coined the term hit and running because Russell T hit and run Doctor Who with the console being designed for 6 people, and that's why the Doctor's just so bad at piloting it.
Yeah, probably. But anyway, Ryan and Graham have come up with a master plan to torment Tim Shaw for the rest of his natural lifespan by just locking him in a little chamber.
Yeah, one of the little stasis pods.
Right.
They seal him in. He's like, well, damn.
They don't seem to activate the stasis capabilities of the pod, so...
I think they do.
They do?
I think it just is slow acting.
Oh. Because I was going to say, like, he'd probably just run out of air, first and foremost. But yeah.
We see his hand touch the glass as it activates.
Like in Titanic. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe Tim Shaw comes back.
Yeah, I mean...
Wouldn't that be mind-blowing?
Well, I was going to say, like, this is... I mean, Tim Shaw seems to be a
villain.
Yeah, a villain, but I was going to say a favorite villain of this era and of Chibnall, perhaps. So this leaves it open for him to come back. And, after this episode, I actually like Tim Shaw a lot more. I think his plan, just like his whole shtick of, like, impersonating the creator and taking revenge, I think it's actually really well done. I really enjoy Tim Shaw as a villain.
Yeah, I think he's better in this episode than in Woman Who Fell to Earth. In Woman Who Fell to Earth, it wasn't that threatening. He just wanted to kill this one guy, basically.
Yeah, well, I think that actually ties into his character in a way. Like, that's something that's great about this season too, is that even the villains have these sort of characters. We even saw that in Rosa with what's his face.
Axos?
No, that was whatever the villain was in Rosa. He didn't really have an arc, but he had a personality.
The space Nazi.
Yeah. We see this with Tim Shaw of, like, in Woman Who Fell to Earth, he's just a guy on a mission. And of course he's a warrior, and he's very warlike, but he's just a guy on a mission. But now he's this guy who's out for revenge.
Right. Yeah, his motivations kind of evolve over the course of the season, even though we don't actually see him, except in the first and last episodes.
Yeah.
Anyway, the day is saved. Graham was like, I couldn't kill Tim Shaw. He's like, I was so weak. And the doctor's like, you're the strongest man I've ever known, Graham. And then she goes, one of.
If you're not counting incarnations 1 through 12 plus the war doctor, that is.
And she just starts going on. And also Turlo. And, Jack Harkness.
Ian,
Stephen.
Ben. Just lists all the male companions in chronological order.
And Adam.
Adric. But you're the strongest, Graham, next to all of them. No.
Reminds me of that comic that I know I've talked about on the show before. That's just like a drawing of all the female companions, like calling for the doctor, and at the very end it's Rose tugging on the doctor's coat going, I thought I was special.
Yeah,
I know I've mentioned this on this show before.
That's a classic. That was created in 2006? Yeah. I wouldn't call it a meme, but that's a very circulated image.
It's a good one, though.
Yeah. So another little Star Wars connection here. The original trilogy of Star Wars is all about how, like, revenge isn't the way, and
revenge isn't the way of the Jedi.
Yeah, and forgiveness trumps, like, evil or whatever. So, done here, verbatim. So, yeah.
It's true. Revenge is, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe not so much that revenge isn't the way, but, like, that getting revenge, like, eats away at you from the inside and, like, destroys your soul or whatever. But is in the moment worth it? No.
Have you seen that meme where it's like, it's a picture of a news article where it's like a kid who gets beat up by bullies and he doesn't fight back, quote, because it's not the Jedi way, unquote. And then, like, someone comments, must be some of those pussy-ass Disney Jedi because the prequel trilogy Jedi would have kicked that bully's ass. I was like, oh, yikes.
The prequel trilogy Jedi were also made out to, like, have lost the
way
of the Jedi. And that, like, the whole thing of 1 through 6 is that it was really Luke who, like, kind of restored that.
Yeah.
But then the whole thing of 7 through 9 was that he lost his way, and that Rey had to remind him of his way. Every time I say, like, the way or his way, I just remember that, like, memed away. I don't even know like the origins or implications of that meme, but
Really thought you were going to reference The Mandalorian to keep it in the Star Wars family.
no, I haven't watched The
Because
Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian, every so often, like when he's talking with the other Mandalorians, will go, "This is the way."
You know, I said when that show came out that I would never watch it, but you know, if I get access to Disney Plus, or if I get a subscription, or if I just use someone else's account, I'll watch it.
It was done by Jon Favreau, so
Yeah,
who we know because he directed the first and second Iron Mans.
Iron Man 1 and 2.
They should have called Iron Man 2 Iron Men. And then Iron Man 3 could have been Iron Woman because Pepper puts on the suit at some point.
Right.
Look at this. Come on, Marvel, what are you doing?
Iron Men's. So Iron Man 3, Iron Men's, Iron Mention. Pretty sure mention is just men in like Dutch or German
I
/
don't
both, but it just sounds funny to me because it always sounded like men, like a plural of men, like a double plural.
Je ne sais pas.
Anyway, you know, I've sort of attested to how much I like this season and episode, but you know, now that we're at the end of this, should we do a little season retrospective or
As usual.
I mean,
We
part
could
of me,
hold it over till resolution.
yeah, part of me wants to save this for resolution for two reasons. One, we're going to be recording that in like 15 minutes. And two, resolution really sort of aptly feels like the actual resolution to this season.
Yeah. Maybe let's just hold it over then.
Yeah. It is also, I think, one of the most connected specials to the season itself, both plot-wise and like proximity-wise. It came out very shortly after the season finished, so yeah, I think we can just hold off.
Well, I thought this was a decent episode on its own. Not like the best of the season, but I thought it was good. It served its purpose.
Yeah, you know, we've come a long way, and this episode really shows that we've come a long way since like the classic show. The season finale would just be another episode. Or the beginning of the reboot where the season finale kind of fell flat, maybe except for series 1, I would say. Also 4.
The Bad Wolf one.
Well, except for series 1 and 4, I feel like the season finales have not fully tied in the rest of the season in maybe the way that I would want. Like, I mean, just think back to characters like, what's her name? The woman with the eye patch.
Kovarian.
Like, how much of non sequitur a lot of what we found out about her seemed to be.
I thought that World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls tied in pretty well with the whole season because it was like Missy and the Doctor was trying to make Missy good, and then that was the first time that he took her out like as a test, and then everything goes to pot. But
I guess I'm just cherry picking, but I really feel that this one did it the best.
yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. It's just there's so many now.
Yeah, it's hard to remember all of them. And then we had the mid-season finale with Series 7.
Good Man Goes to War.
Well, that was the one with... Was it the one with COVID? Yeah.
Yeah, but she came back later on to just get like unceremoniously killed in the one where all of time is happening at once. When River tries to stop herself from killing the Doctor at the lake because she's in the astronaut suit, and then all of time happens at once, and then they're in the pyramid, and the Silents are like in the pyramid, and what was that one called?
Wasn't that the mid-series?
No, that was the
7
end
one?
of Series 7 finale. The mid one was Good Man Goes to War, because that's when we found out that River was Melody Pond.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez, what a disaster of a season looking back on it.
I really liked the second half, some of the individual episodes, and trying to,
Yeah, but
piece
the
together what Clara
overarching
was.
plot was all over the place.
My theory for who Clara really was is still better than what we actually got, which, just to remind people, I theorized that she was reincarnating like backwards through time, which is like a much more interesting concept, but perhaps also
more difficult to pull off.
yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you got to remember the Doctor Who's for the kids.
Sometimes you got to remember that like you got to take big risks for big rewards.
True. It's true.
Anyway, I don't really have much more to say about this. Surprisingly, we didn't get any famous people mentions from the Doctor.
Yep, no famous people that I noticed.
Any famous mentions. Get it?
Wow.
Probably not
Pretty
even
sure
using
like most of the people the Doctor's mentioned this season have been women. Guess we'll find out in the season retrospective next episode. I'll count it up since I wrote all of them down.
Yeah, good, because I haven't been keeping count.
Well, then I guess on that note, I don't have anything else to talk about for this episode.
Yeah, neither do I.
If you'd like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, inquiries, love letters, your thoughts on Series 11. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube, all at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor, like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. Next time, we're going to be watching Resolution, but until then, the end.